When setting up a Google Ads campaign, there are a number of pitfalls that advertisers quite often fall into that end up costing them a lot of money in advertising spend. And when reviewing different client accounts, I often see when accounts have been set up by somebody who's new to Google Ads, that there's a few common mistakes that I see time and time again within these accounts. So within this video, I want to show you 5 of the most common and most costly mistakes that occur when setting up a Google Ads campaign. Now, to illustrate the 5 mistakes that advertisers often make when setting up a new campaign, I'm just going to give you a run through of an account that I've recently set up for a client. The account hasn't been put live yet, which is why it says that none of the ads are currently running. And I thought this would be a great way of giving you an example of how to avoid the 5 mistakes. Now, the first mistake that we're going to start with is not adding any negative keywords to the account or adding a lack of negative keywords to the account. Now, just to give you a quick run through, what negative keywords do is filter through the search terms that are being targeted by your ads and filter out the non-relevant search terms. So terms being used by people who are not going to be customers of yours and aren't actually looking to purchase your service. They could be terms related to your industry, but not terms that somebody would use when they're actually going to look for your service and pay for your service. So for example, just to use an example, if you were a solicitor, you might want to target a term such as solicitors in London, but you wouldn't want to target a term such as how much do solicitors get paid when working in London. If you're targeting that term, then you're going to be wasting your money because that person's looking for information on salaries. They're not looking to hire a solicitor. So in order to find this within your campaign and take a look at what you've done or what the person who set up your campaign has done with the negative keywords, I'm just going to show you how to navigate over to that section. So when you're looking in the campaigns view of your account, if you click on the campaign that you'd like to look at and then select keywords, you'll then have a menu on the top bar and you'll have the option of selecting negative keywords. So in here you should see a list of negative keywords that have been applied to the campaign. Even if the campaign hasn't run yet, a good plan of action is to create a list of keywords which you definitely don't want to target, which are going to be related to your sector, related to your industry, and apply those to the campaign to block the terms that you know are going to be wasting your advertising budget. So we can see in this example of this campaign that I've set up, we've got a number of negative keywords that have been applied to the campaign. And so ideally you want to see a long list of terms here. And if you're not doing that, then there's a good chance that your campaign is going to be wasting a certain amount of money. Now, if you don't see any negative keywords here, there is one other place that negative keywords can be located within your account. You can access that by clicking on Tools and Settings and then selecting Negative Keyword Lists. Once you've opened up that section, you should have a list, different lists of keywords, and those should be applied to your campaigns. So if we open up this as an example, we can see that this list has a number of keywords that we want to make sure that we're not targeting with our campaign, and we've applied them here to our main campaign. So you can apply these lists to multiple campaigns, and it really helps to save your advertising budget. So the second common and very costly mistake that I see within Google Ads campaigns is the use of broad match keywords. Now, if you're not familiar with broad match keywords, when you add keywords to your campaign, you have a number of different what called match types, and these determine the spectrum of search terms that your keyword will be targeting. And what I'll do is I'll show you the different match types that are available. So the first match type is exact match, which is the most restrictive match type. So to use an example, if you were targeting the keyword Google Ads and you're using the exact match type, you would only be targeting either that exact term as it appears or close variants. So effectively you would be targeting Google Ads or a very close variant such as Google Ad. So this is the safest match type that you can use within your account because it restricts how many different terms that you can be targeting. The next match type, which is less restrictive but still quite restrictive, is phrase match. So when you're using phrase match, you will be targeting terms that include the keyword as it appears, but also have potentially other words before or after that term. So to use Google Ads as an example again, you would be targeting Google Ads, but also you could target keyword terms which have words after Google Ads. So for example, Google Ads tutorial or words preceding. So for example, I need help with Google Ads. So this will enable you to target a wider spectrum. But going back to the earlier point, you need to be careful about what terms you're going to be targeting and making sure that you're adding in negative keywords so that you're not targeting terms which are going to be not directly related to the service that you're offering. So if we go one step further, the other match type which will enable you to target an even broader spectrum of terms is broad match modified. Now, broad match modified will enable you to target terms that contain the keywords, but in any order. So, for example, it could be ads appearing in this example before the word Google. So how do I place ads on Google? So you'd be targeting any terms which contain both Google and ads. So you can see here that enables you to target a much wider spectrum of terms. So you're going to be targeting a lot more search terms, but the other side to that is that you need to be even more careful and even more vigilant with which terms you're targeting and make sure that you're adding in negative keywords. So as you go down in the list, the spectrum of terms that you're targeting is much greater, and therefore you need more control and, if possible, have more experience in managing campaigns in order to know how to block the non-relevant keywords that you're potentially going to be targeting. Now, this brings us to the broad match type, which is by far the greatest spectrum of terms that you're going to be targeting when you're using this. And this is why it's one of the most costly mistakes, because it's one of the default match types when you're building a campaign. So if you add a keyword, you might unknowingly just add it as a broad match keyword, and you can imagine that with the spectrum of terms that you could be targeting, that you're going to be targeting a lot of terms which are not relevant to your service, and you're going to be spending a lot of money on those terms, and it's going to end up being a waste of your budget. So if we look at this example, if I was targeting Google Ads, with broad match, the terms that we target now do not need to contain any of the words from the keyword that we've added. It just has to be in some way, shape or form related to the keyword that we've added in. And this is at Google's discretion. So if Google, for example, believes, if the algorithm calculates that pay-per-click advertising is related to Google Ads, I'll be targeting that term unless I've added a negative keyword. Or, for example, Bing ads. If the algorithm calculates that that's related to the keyword I've added, Google ads, then I'll be targeting that search term. So there's going to be a very long list of terms that you can be targeting, and this is one of the ways that advertisers end up wasting a great deal of money when setting up a new campaign. So what I would recommend is, if you're setting up a new campaign, don't add any broad match keywords. I would recommend sticking to either exact match and maybe even going a bit further and adding in phrase match and broad match modified terms. And that's going to give you the best balance of a large spectrum of terms and being able to restrict what terms you're targeting with your campaign, and it's going to stop you from potentially wasting a lot of money with your Google Ads campaign. Okay, so the third most costly and a very common mistake that I see with the setup of new Google Ads campaigns is the setup of the location settings. And the error that's made here can be extremely costly. So I'm just going to show you where you can find that within your campaign and how you can avoid making this mistake. So if you just click on your campaign when you're in the campaigns view, then select settings and wait for that to load, and then click on locations. Now you'll see that you've set up particular targeting, and you might even have added some excluded locations. But the crucial setting is somewhat hidden in the location options drop-down menu at the bottom. So once you click on that, you have the targeting options. So you can either select what is the recommended option, which is people in or who show interest in your target locations. And what that setting effectively does is, in this example, for example, we've selected Australia and New Zealand. So what this means is we're targeting people who are in Australia and New Zealand, but also people from different countries in the world who have an interest in Australia and New Zealand. So that's quite different from what we may be trying to achieve with this campaign. If we're targeting people in different countries who may have shown an interest in these countries that we're targeting, then we're now targeting a much wider spectrum of people that actually maybe we don't want to be spending money to bring those people to our website because they're not within our target market for the service that we're offering. So although this is the default option and the option that's recommended by Google, it's certainly not the option that I recommend. I recommend selecting people in or regularly in your targeted location, and that should be the setting that you use by default whenever you're setting up a campaign. And that will help you save money and avoid your ads appearing in countries that you're not trying to target, which will result in a lot of wasted ad spend. So the fourth mistake that I often see within new Google Ads accounts is having a poor landing page. And what that means is those advertisers are paying for visitors to come to their website, but then the experience for those visitors on that landing page is not good, and for that reason they don't end up getting in contact either through a web form or using the phone number, and it ends up being a waste of money because those people don't turn out to become customers after visiting the website. So you might be wondering, do you have a poor landing page, and what is a poor landing page? Well, there are a number of factors that you should look at when setting up a landing page, and one of those, for example, is having a strong call to action. So to use this page as an example, the call to action clearly indicates here to go to the next step. The visitor needs to fill out this form in order to get into contact. The form stands out. It contrasts with the background, the green color of the call to action contrasts with the color scheme of the website, so it really stands out. So immediately you're telling the visitor what they need to do in order to get in contact with you, in order to get to the next step. So that's very important. Also, the phone number needs to be in bold, stand out, be in contrast. You don't want it to blend in or be camouflaged into the background. That's really important. If you want somebody to carry out a certain action, it needs to jump out at them. It needs to scream to them, because people have, or can do, have quite a short attention span when they're searching, they're browsing websites. They'll give each website a few seconds before they move on to another one. So you need to grab their attention very quickly and tell them what you want them to do very quickly. Another thing that's very important is to have a headline that stands out, to have concise information. So using bullet points, as is done in this example. Having indicators of credibility. So here having Bloomberg, CNBC here, that indicates safeness, credibility to that visitor. That's very important. Scrolling down, you want to have additional information. You want to have comprehensive information about your product and service, so that if that person who's visiting your website isn't converted immediately, they have the opportunity to read more about your service, and get the information that they need in order to make a buying decision. So you want to have adequate information. If possible, you want to have reviews from past clients. Again, that's giving you more credibility, good indicators that you're a safe operator to work with. So those are the types of things you want to be having on your landing page, and then additional call to actions down the page. So you make sure that that visitor isn't confused about what they need to do in order to progress to the next stage and become a client of yours. So the fifth and final costly mistake that I see within new Google Ads campaigns is no conversion tracking that's been set up. And this is a big issue, because as that campaign goes live and begins spending money, it's important to be able to track whether or not that campaign is generating new clients, new sales, new customers, and where those sales are coming from within the campaign, which keywords they're coming from, and which ads they're coming from. So if you're not tracking, you're effectively going to be wasting money in certain areas of your campaign. Now, to check if you've set up, or the manager has set up conversion tracking within your campaign, you can do that by selecting Tools and Settings, and then clicking on Conversions. Here you'll be able to set up conversion actions for somebody who's called a phone number on your website, or somebody who's completed the contact form within your website. The tracking is very simple and easy to set up, so your developer will very easily be able to set that up. If they're not able to, then Google Ads has a support team that can assist with that. Once the conversion tracking has been set up successfully on your website, in these cases, these two conversion actions are going to be set up in due course. So what we'll see here is this will change from unverified to verified. So you know that that conversion tracking has been set up, and then you can test it to make sure that it's working. And what this will do is it will tell you where the value is coming from within your campaigns, and which aspects of your campaigns are generating revenue for your business. So those are the 5 costly Google Ads mistakes that hopefully after watching this video you're going to be able to avoid, and hopefully it's going to save you money. If you found this video informative and useful, please feel free to give it a like. If you'd like any more tips and helpful advice for Google Ads and marketing, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like a specialist to take a look at your Google Ads account to help you avoid any of these 5 mistakes, then feel free to get in contact with us at contact@optimizedlab.com. Thanks for watching.